Hello and welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, I'm David Wallbridge, Associate Director at Harris & Clarke. This is Snoop. And in today's video, we'll be exploring some important changes to building regulations, particularly the creation of the roles of the principal designer, principal contractor and client under the building regulations. These recent appointments mark a significant shift at how compliance is managed across the construction industry. Whether you're commissioning new developments, overseeing design or managing the delivery on site, understanding these new responsibilities is now essential. In this video, I'll guide you through what's changed, why these changes have been introduced, and what you need to know moving forward. Let's begin with a broad overview. The recent amendments to the building regulations introduced enhanced duties to those holding the roles of principal designer, principal contractor, and the client. The aim is to strengthen accountability throughout the life cycle of a project, ensuring that every duty holder takes a more proactive and coordinated approach to regulatory compliance, right from the planning and design stages through to completion. These changes align with the wider regulatory reforms taking place across the built environment sector, particularly in response to the findings of the Grenfell Tower inquiry and the introduction of the Building Safety Act. The amended regulations apply to all projects that fall under the building regulation framework. This includes new builds, refurbishments, and in some cases changes of use. Importantly, the amendments apply to both domestic and non-domestic projects, meaning that even smaller scale works are now subject to updated duties. If these projects involve the need to involve your local building control authority, then you are legally required to make these new appointments to comply with your obligations. So, what are the key changes and what do you need to be aware of? If works are deemed to be notifiable to local building control authority, the person commissioning the work must confirm an individual as the client, and they must formally appoint persons to act as principal designer, principal contractor in writing. Principal designers are responsible for ensuring that all design work complies with all parts of the building regulations and don't conflict with each other, potentially allowing one part of the building to cause another to become non-compliant. The principal contractor must plan, manage and monitor the construction phase with a focus on regulatory compliance. Report back to the principal designer, sharing all relevant information in a timely manner, and they're required to make sure that the client is aware of their responsibilities. The client also has responsibility, which we will touch on later. All duty holders must be able to demonstrate that they have the necessary skill, knowledge and experience and the behaviours appropriate for their role. If they can't, then they shouldn't be accepting their appointments. This framework looks to ensure a higher standard of compliance across all parties involved in the delivery of a project and increased accountability. Why has this change been introduced? The amendments form a part of a wider effort to address systematic issues within the construction industry, most notably the lack of clarity around roles and responsibilities which contributed to past failings in the building safety and compliance. The updated regulations aim to embed a culture of accountability within the sector by placing clear responsibilities on each duty holder. The intention is to drive better outcomes in terms of safety, compliance and the quality of construction. You may find these roles familiar if you work in the construction industry. They're the same titles as the duty holders under the Construction Design and Management or CDM regulations. This has been for some pre-cooked familiarity in the industry, but I must stress these appointments are not the same thing, especially in the case of the principal designer. So, who can the principal designer be? Let's take a closer look at the principal designer role. Under the new regulations, the principal designer must be someone with meaningful control over the design of a project with the ability to coordinate compliance with building regulations. This could be an architect, an engineer or a chartered surveyor, for example. Whatever the case, they must be suitably qualified professionals. It is important to note that it is not the job title that matters, it's about competency. The individual or organisation must have the capacity to lead on design, compliance, engage with relevant parties, and ensure the project meets its statutory obligations. Failure to do so or accepting appointments beyond these, the principal designer is experienced. And just see, you're putting me off now. Just one sentence. Right. Failure to do so or accepting appointments beyond those the principal designer is experienced in may result in them being prosecuted if a failure occurs. Who is the principal contractor? The principal contractor is a person or organisation with primary control over the construction phase of a project. Typically, this would be the main contractor, and again, they must ensure and confirm that they have the necessary skills, knowledge and experience to take responsibility for managing the works, ensuring that all the construction activities adhere to building regulations and the approved design. The principal contractor must also coordinate with designers, subcontractors and the clients to maintain compliance throughout the build. The responsibilities placed on clients have significantly increased under these amendments. Clients must now appoint a competent principal designer and principal contractor in writing before works commence, ensure that both parties understand or are capable of fulfilling their duties, provide relevant project information at the appropriate time, ensure that arrangements are in place for planning, managing and monitoring compliance throughout the project. The client is ultimately responsible for setting the tone and structure of the project, so failing to meet these obligations could result in regulatory consequences. In short, the client is no longer a passive participant. They are a key duty holder under this new regime. To summarise, here are the key considerations for all parties involved. Formal appointments for principal designer and principal contractor are now mandatory for applicable projects. All duty holders must have and demonstrate competency in their roles. Clients must play a proactive role in establishing and overseeing the compliance arrangements, and greater emphasis is now placed on ongoing coordination and monitoring of building regulations requirements throughout the project's life cycle. These reforms are designed to raise standards across the industry and ensure a more structured and responsible approach to regulatory compliance. That brings us to the end of today's video. The recent amendments to the building regulations represent a major step towards improving clarity, accountability and ultimately building safety. Whether you're a client, contractor or designer, it's essential to understand the scope of your duties and ensure you have the right people in place to deliver on them. As always, if you need any help or advice on this or other topics, you can contact our friendly team at our website, harrisonclarke.co.uk, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.